Superior attack!
Welcome back to Superior Tech, the portion of YouTube where you, the video game nerd, can come and listen to me drone on and on about the numbers and tech of video games. I am Respecugnize, and this is Reinhardt. So Reinhardt really likes justice, and because he carries a big stick, he's gonna get it. So we will go through our normal kit, our talents for the characters, in order from primary through secondary, left shift E, and then alt, with me droning on and on once again about the numbers. So without further ado, let's look at the start. On primary fire, we have Rocket Hammer. It is literally a hammer powered by rockets. And let's see, can we look at it? Nope, he puts it up. He goes into, I don't know where it goes, but so you can see those rockets on the back of that, and it's self-explanatory, and we'll swing it. Okay, so this attack is his only melee, and it takes, it replaces the melee. You probably can't hear the clicking furiously I'm doing on my quick melee button, but it's not going to do anything. All he does is swing a hammer on primary. So it is a hammer that does 75 damage. It has a 5-meter range, and one swing takes 0.9 seconds, but I'm just going to say 1 second because why not? Let's round it up. So this hammer will not headshot, but at 75 damage per swing, it does hit pretty hard. Going on to our secondary fire, we get into the crux of Reinhardt, the sword and board. So, of course, the sword is that hammer. He doesn't actually have a sword. He does have an axe on one of his skins, but he doesn't have a sword. But here's our board. So this is Barrier Field. It is a 2,000 hit point or 2,000 health shield that is held out in front of Reinhardt as long as you hold down that secondary fire. It replenishes itself at 195 points per second after you let go of secondary fire after 2 seconds. So there is a mini cooldown for that. It alters your speed to 2.75 meters per second as long as you are walking in any direction with it. And it has a cooldown of 5 seconds after it's broken. After that 5 seconds, it will be available again, and it will be at 585 health specifically, and then immediately go into the 195 health per second if you let go again and let it cool down. The shield will actually angle, and I can't show it here because there's no enemy hero to track, but wherever you are looking is where that shield's going to go, including down if you jump and up if you look up. You can also hit your primary fire, which will allow you to swing your view around so that you can see what's going on, and we're going to get to why that is very important in this character when we get into how to use them. Left shift is charge. It has a 1 second stun whenever it hits an enemy hero. When it hits a wall or non-destructible object, it will do 300 damage. If it does not, it will bump the character off of him, including if they are not in center mass. When the charge contacts them, it will simply bump them off. It will only do 50 damage. The movement speed is 16.66 meters per second once he's in motion. The maximum distance he will travel is 55 meters, so you need to be aiming into a wall at that point. The casting time is 0.7 seconds because there is some frames for startup in which he jumps back, lowers his shoulder, and then starts moving. And because he is a mass and a vector, there is the need for the momentum to start. It's not an automatic momentum. He actually uses the rocket that's on his back to push him forward. The cooldown is 10 seconds. And it is only 3 seconds if it is interrupted And there's a couple of things that will interrupt that charge. Any stun will do it. The other is Reinhardt being countercharged by another Reinhardt. They will stop each other, they will stun each other, and then whatever hero is in between them will take that 300 damage because the other Reinhardt effectively becomes a immovable object at that point. So that moves us on to E, which is Fire Strike. It is a linear projectile that has Pierce. It does 100 damage. It moves at 26.66 meters per second. And let me make sure that I did not... Yeah, okay, so 26.66 meters per second. I got confused because it is very similar to the 16.66 meters per second of that shoulder, but I've confirmed 26.66 meters per second on the movement of the Fire Strike. It has 0.6 seconds of startup frame delay and 1.2 seconds for the full animation to go through. So another 0.6 for the thing to actually get fired off. It has a cooldown of 6 seconds and it cannot headshot. We will now just move down to the firing range to kind of look at some of this stuff in actual action, so I'm not just talking about it, and look at some cool tech for him. Okay, so Reinhardt is your quintessential tank. When I think of tanks, that's what I think of because, you know, World of Warcraft, other things like that, sword and board. Big guy, has a shield, soaking up damage and things like that, and that's what Reinhardt does. Probably better than any other tank because the shield there allows you to completely negate damage as long as it is not melee or a beam weapon, because those will penetrate that shield. So whereas Reinhardt doesn't take damage, some of the others do, such as D.Va, outside of the use of her shield, which, you know, eats all damage in front of it. Roadhog also is a kind of on the bad side of tanks because he's a damage soaking tank, but because of that he's actually helping the enemy team effectively build ult. The shield does not, so that's the big difference between him. So let's look at some of the cool tech for the hammer. If an enemy, and these are not movable, they're pretty much sitting there, but we'll take a look at it right here. If you hold down on your primary, he's going to swing that shield back and forth. If you do a stutter in that, he's going to swing. He's always going to swing from right to left. So you just put a little stutter in there. You can kind of see as soon as he starts to move, what looks like moving back the other way. If we hold it, you know, he's going to stay out to the left a little. If we just tap it, you see there's that one part of the frame where the hammer effectively reverses on the pendulum. Once you see that frame, you are safe to just swing again. The reason why we would want a differentiation between that is because when this hammer hits a non-still, I mean, these bots aren't going to move, but if we have an enemy hero here in front of us, whatever direction we're swinging in is the direction that character is going to move. So if there was, if we have no rail here, see, we can move across this. If there's an enemy here and we tap, we swing that hammer from right to left. That is going to be an environmental kill, especially if they're in the air, because they move even further, because we don't have to worry about mu, the coefficient of friction between that character and the ground. So the hammer swing will give you environmental kills. Also, the hammer, once swung, because it's a melee, it's a physical object, and so as long as you can see that hammer and it has frames, it's a physical object that's moving through space that's going to do the 75 damage. In that, if you can move your mouse based on your DPI and your travel for your arm, that swing there actually affected 360 degrees around me, because you can see that hammer's in the frame and moving that whole time. So whereas this is a 5-degree arc, 180 degrees in front, I'm sorry, as this is a 5-meter circle, at 180 degrees in front of me, this effectively becomes a 10 meter circumference circle around me of 75 damage. Now, Flame Strike, which is on E, will actually frame cancel the hammer. And so if I swing, as you saw that, I completely, as far as the animations of the hammer, I canceled them, but that hammer actually moved across me. So if I have a low health character like Tracer or Genji that's thinking, well, I can get in here and run up to Reinhardt and I can get those headshots on that little pea head he has on those enormous shoulders. I can get in and get out. Well, they'd have to think again because Reinhardt can effectively burst damage. So if I swing this hammer and cancel with the Flame Strike and swing again, because I've just held my finger on that and got the Flame Strike out. So we'll look at it again. I swing, Flame Strike, and then I hold again. I can get the 2 hammer strikes in as well as the Flame Strike. I've done a lot of burst damage, and so some character that's only got 150 health with no armor, that character's dead. So the Genjis and the Tracers, but also 200 health characters that have been damaged. So in some of the characters that have armor that are only in the 150 range, so looking at the Symmetras, the McCrees, the Doomfist, you can burst damage that character and they will be very surprised that they can't get away with what they want because you have damaged them that fast. So as far as other things looking at damage in 1v1s, McCree. So if we have a McCree in front of us, let's say that's McCree, and he's going to use his flashbang. This shield is a physical object, and it stops everything except for fist, characters moving through it, and beam weapons to balance him out. So that flashbang being a physical projectile that has a radius, it has an AoE bubble when it goes off. This shield protects us from that, except in one place, and that's above us. So if you look at the shield and how wide it is, McCree cannot flash on the sides, unlike Brigitte, because Brigitte has the smaller shield. You can flash on either side of her. With Reinhardt, the only way to flash him is to get that flashbang over the shield, because as you can see, the shield is completely on the ground. So what McCrees will do, the good ones, is they'll bait you to move the shield up, because if you're looking up when he throws that flashbang up, your shield is going to go up with it. So like that, you can kind of see what he's doing there. It's more pronounced if there's an actual object to block up there. So like a Pharah, you can get it completely up in the air. But as you can see, it's angled up, and you can see there's a crack at the bottom right there. The further this shield goes up, the bigger that crack. And if he then head fakes you, basically, he pump fakes you, he looks up, you look up to block it, he looks down and throws it at the ground, then you're going to get flashed. That's the only way he can do it. But if you jump up in the air and look down, then you can see that the shield is actually angled down. So if you look up and he throws it up, then you stop him. But if he looks down and throws it down, then you don't stop him. So you have the 50-50 chance. If you have the distances correct, if you look down and jump, he doesn't have a chance, because the flashbang is going to be blocked by the shield being angled down, or it's going to impact the top of the shield unless he throws it way up high, in which there's actually a chance that it wasn't going to hit you anyway, because if you look at that flashbang in slow motion, there's a pressure bubble that comes off of it, just like there would be in an actual, like if you threw quarter stick of dynamite or something like that, something that compresses the air and explodes an explosion. The game shows that with the physics engine also. So it's usually safer to just go ahead and jump and angle down to try to block it. So that's going to bring us to our ult, Earth Shatter. So Earth Shatter is an area of effect melee attack. It does 50 damage. It has a maximum range of 20 meters, a casting time of 0.6 seconds. It has a duration of 2.5 seconds on the stun, which that's what it does. It has a charge requirement of 1,375 points, to which Reinhardt will passively get 1% ult charge every 2.75 seconds. So Reinhardt will slam his hammer to the ground. He has an audible that says hammer down, and it's important to remember that it is linear and it uses line of sight. So what I'm going to try to do is time this where we can show the line of sight of it. Let's just go here. You see this character was not in line of sight because there's a wall there. So every character that I can see here and can see the impact point that don't have a barrier between them, they get knocked down to the ground for 2.5 seconds. This is one of the ults that's in those solo game winning ults. So Roadhog's ability to use Whole Hog to push back, Reinhardt's ability to slam us on the ground, Zarya's Gravity Bubble, Diva's Self-Destruct, the Riptire, they're a little different because they effectively can wipe a team. But you have Zarya, Roadhog, Reinhardt, these characters that can stop a team. And by this, look, there's two different ways to win this game, because you don't win by killing the other team completely. You win by defending a point, meaning that when the timer hits 0, no enemy from the other team is on the point. Or you can win by escorting a point to an endpoint. If you're in quick play, if you're in competitive, then it's whoever gets it closest to the end. It's a little different. So the point is, there is a line that is going to be displayed in the game that they either have to physically be on when the timer hits 0, if they're on attack, and your team needs to not be there, meaning they have to be wiped, or it goes into overtime. If you're on defense to win, you have to have your team members, or at least one team member, on that point, and none of their team members on the point, or it goes into overtime. And to win by overtime, the same thing. When the overtime ticker goes down, if you're on defense, you have to be there and they are not. If they're on offense, they have to be there and you are not. So basically, with that stun, if this is the magical line, if I simply hit Q and I have the ult, and they're running in, we've wiped this team, and the clock is ticking, everyone knows the epic music starts, and you have to make a decision. I will probably suicide. I need to get myself across that line and on that point. It doesn't matter if I die, as long as I'm on that point alive when the timer hits 0 pre-overtime, or to restart the timer if we're in overtime. If I have Reinhardt here and I effectively hit Q and it stuns this entire team, it doesn't matter if they're right here. If they get stunned right here and that timer goes to 0, it's over. If we were in overtime and I hit, there's some timing involved in that, but most likely the same thing. It's over and done. So Reinhardt can win the game by himself. Roadhog can win the game by himself. Zarya can win the game by herself. So that is why Reinhardt, besides the fact that it's a real estate game, so the same thing, if we're trying to win this game by getting here, if we're moving behind the shield and not taking any damage, we're eating real estate. And the closer we get, especially if it's in competitive and we've got an escort, the more real estate we eat, the more we win. So that is why Reinhardt is a quintessential part of the game. He is, when you think tank meta, he's probably going to be at least one of those tanks. There's 2 tank meta, there's 3 tank meta also. One of those tanks is probably going to be Reinhardt, just because the shield mitigates damage and because he can move forward with that shield. And speaking of that, one of the cool techs of it is, remember, this is a physics game, and so when that shield is up, we are moving at the slower rate. But if we are jumping through the air, there's no penalization while we're in the air for it. So if we're in the air, we're not touching the ground, and because we're not touching the ground, the game is not not changing the speed at all. So if you can time the jumps with the shield, you don't get the penalization for having the shield out. So yeah, it's like a little bunny hop, and it's ridiculous, but it's tech. It's the numbers. That's just taking advantage of the physics engine. So looking at the rest of the kit quickly to round it out, on that left shift, your charge, there is the slowdown. So let's look at it real quickly. This character is on the wall already, so it's very easy to show it. When you hit that left shift, there is the visible jump back for Reinhardt. He dips his shoulder down, the rockets come in, and he moves forward. During that forward movement, you control where Reinhardt goes with with your mouse, but his degree of change is highly limited. And so let's get a little further charge. Let's charge this bot when he comes back up, and that way we can show both the damage increase of the pin and also the movement. So we're going to start here. We're going to charge and see. I attempted to move, and I'm sorry, you actually move with WAS just like normal. I will attempt to move into that to show the degree change. Okay, so you can see that the movement is a little different, and we did not hit him head on, and so it just bumped him for the 50 damage. Whereas we'll get onto this one, we're just gonna pin him. You got the full damage, and so the full damage from the pin is 300 on a wall collision or an immovable object collision, and so it does the damage. Looking at the shield. Whenever I play Reinhardt, I'm very audible about where my shield health is, so that the team can understand when the probability of me dropping the shield or when the shield is going to drop out, because characters are pretty much dependent on being behind the shield to move forward. So there are some visible and audibles for the shield. Once we get down to 1,000, we're going to start to see the first visible cracks in the shield. So here we go with this volley. Okay, there's the first cracks. When we get down to 500, we're going to see the secondary set of cracks form in the shield. And there's a second. At 400, the audible is going to come out. And then when the shield gets down to 0, it's going to completely break. Alright, there's the 5-second cooldown. Now you can see the shield is already starting to go back up at the 195 per second. Once it gets to 585, which, because mathematically 5 seconds later, the shield is able to go back up. It will be at 585 health, but as soon as you put it back out, it's not going to heal, because it can only heal when it's down. So that is the tech and the numbers for the shield. So you have to be very conservative about your shield, and that's why I'm saying I'm very audible with my team, but I really shouldn't have to, because the visual aspect is there for everyone to see. So if you're going up against a Reinhardt, then no. The shield, if you see the shield in full integrity, it's above 1,000. It's somewhere between 1,000 and 200. As soon as you see the first crack, it's at 1,000. When you see it crack again, you're at 500. The enemy team, I do not believe I've ever heard the other Reinhardt say his shield was going down. The audible is only privy to the hero team that is allied. I could be wrong, but once again, I don't think I've ever heard the enemy Reinhardt audible that his shield is down, and it may be because I wasn't close enough, because it is a voice thing, but I don't think it lets you know. I think that's only something that your team will hear if they are in earshot. That's pretty much all I can think of with this character. This one ran a little long, but Reinhardt and once again is a quintessential part of tank meta in the game. If you're going to pick a tank, I would say start with the Reinhardt. If you're going to go to tank meta, there's some maps that are very specific where you wouldn't run a Reinhardt, and they're very few and far between, and that's based on your composition. I would say that, once again, if you're going to bring a Reinhardt, because the shield mitigates all damage, unlike Diva, who is a semi-soak tank. She has her talent, which allows her to negate damage for a little while. Roadhog is a soak tank, in that he takes damage and can heal himself and has high health pool, but he also effectively helps the other team build ult, because as long as they're hitting him, they're getting the increased ult build from doing that DPS to him, whereas the shield doesn't. So if you're going to play Reinhardt, be very conservative about the shield. Look around and remember that primary fire with the shield allows you to see in different angles. You just have to switch your brain around. So left, right, and then when I'm switched this way, then what used to be left is now right, and back and forward are reversed, and you just have to be able to switch your brain around it. But this allows you to stop something that I've mentioned in the Mora video. Whenever you are most tanks are just they're tunnel vision. When this shield is up, all they're doing is looking at the threat in front of them, and they're trying to keep the shield to mitigate whatever damage is in front of them. You know, they're throwing these out or whatever. If they're a bad Reinhardt, they're constantly trying to do this. If they're a good Reinhardt, then they're looking at specific times in which that is an effective thing. See, like another Reinhardt is charging, you may want to counter charge, or in most cases, you may want to just step sideways and let them go. But most Reinhardts are going to get tunnel vision. They're just so intent on what's going in front of them that they don't see the damage that's coming from behind them. So if we turn around, you see those little red tick marks are telling us that we're getting shot from behind. But if we look at how much space, real estate that's taking up in our view here, look, the bottom of the screen is turning red. Our health is going down. But normally what we'd be seeing is a bunch of ticks. You know, we're seeing little red ticks moving towards us, and there's going to be a bunch of them because everyone's firing at the shield, right? So we're already seeing all those little red ticks coming from the front. Most Reinhardts will not see those little red ticks coming from the back because they're just seeing so many ticks in front of the shield. Also, because the little red, the little red tick is so low and so small for most players shooting, they're not seeing that those ticks are coming, those red ticks coming from behind them. They're just seeing the ticks coming from in front of them. Because of that, and the fact that all of the beam weapons will go through, and so that is Zarya, Symmetra, and Mora are the characters that have the beam weapons. A lot of times they won't see the damage coming from behind them. You know, because they're just so intent on keeping the shield up. Keep the shield up, protect the team, move forward and protect the team. They're not seeing it. So it is important. See, I can move forward, and then, you know, I've got my primary and I'm looking around. It's very important to be able to get out of that tunnel vision of I have to keep my shield up and I have to move forward. You have to check your sides. You have to check your six, unless you have teammates that are going to do the audible. And so that's what I'm saying. Even though I really shouldn't, I'm very audible about where my shield is. Shield at 1500, shield at 1000, shield at 300, shield about to break. Also, I'm audible about what I'm going to do with the shield. So because it's better to have the shield go down, like take the shield down myself, because it's 2 seconds before it starts to heal, versus being up and letting the shield drop for 5 seconds because I've allowed it to break. So I'll say, you know, shield going down in 3, 2, 1, and I move out and allow that shield the 2 seconds, and then the shield starts to build itself up. This is to let my teammates know which direction we're going to move. You know, they know there's a wall here. Obviously, I'm not going in here to drop the shield because I'd still be affected. I'm going to go out to this direction and drop shield. The other big use of Reinhardt in meta is the pirate ship or battleship or gunship. I like to call it gunship, but most people are going to call it pirate ship. That's where you're on a escort and you're standing on the front with shield up, and behind you and to the side usually is going to be a bastion. And if you're going to use double tank meta, you're going to be here in front, and you're going to have an Orisa in the back, and she's going to drop barrier facing the other way with her barrier wrapped back. So that barrier will curve back towards you, and if you look up a little bit, you can pretty much get a 360-degree cover for your bastion, which is your gun, on your pirate ship while you're moving forward. You just have to pay attention. The same thing, it's very important to be able to look and see what's going on, and you have to be vocal about where your shield is, because the bastion usually will have the gun up so far that they can't really see the cracks that form on the edge of the shield. They won't be able to see it, and the Orisa will most likely be facing the other way, dropping barrier. She's hitting E to drop her barrier, and so she can't see your shield. So there has to be communication between yourself, the Orisa, and the bastion as to what's going to go. Front shield's going down so it can heal. He's going to have to switch to his self heal and things like that. The only thing to worry about when you're running that pirate ship is an enemy Orisa using the Holt to knock you, to effectively, they can time the ball to pull you off, and also Zarya using her gravity well to pull you off that way. Doomfist stunning, Brigitte stunning, and things like that are pretty much the only things you're going to have to worry about in the timing of how much damage your shield is going to take. So that is Reinhardt in a nutshell, as I like to say. So if I have made any mistakes or missed anything, send me a PM, a text, a message, give me a call, write me a letter, send it snail mail, get the information to me so I can come in and change the thing up. If there's a patch or something, let me know, and I will come in so that these videos stay meta and they stay competent and correct in their information. But just be patient, because I'm not the best player, just trying to get there. Have fun, guys.
Respecugnize game when I get on the move. Respecugnize game on.